Today we're going to talk about responsive design using CSS. So first of all, what is responsive design? So I've pulled up this website, W3 Schools. It's a great site for learning how to do HTML, JavaScript, any kind of front-end development, and CSS. But they have designed their site to be responsive. So what that means is if I take the browser window and I start to shrink it, you're going to see that certain elements start to disappear or move around. So right here, look at that breakpoint. As I slide the browser to the left and the right, we see that the arrangement of elements on the page have been modified to accommodate the screen. So maybe this breakpoint right here looks the best on a tablet. And then if I continue to drag the width in, you start to see elements kind of tighten up. This might be the breakpoint for mobile devices. Maybe you're looking at the website on the phone. So this would look good if you were scrolling inside of an iPhone or Android mobile browser. So responsive means it responds to the shape of the screen. Another way to see that is if you hit F12 or the developer tools, you get a little inspector on the site and you can get all sorts of information about the page. Well, up here in the corner you see a little toggle. You can click on that and this lets you test based on device size. So here it's telling you this is what the website would look like if I were using an iPad, and I'll kind of go into 100% there so you can see it better. So this lets you test your responsive design in different devices. I'm using Chrome, and this inspector tool is made available through Chrome. So you can see I can test this with, Pixel or Galaxy or iPhone. So let's try iPhone 10. And here's what it would look like. And you can see you can test, touch events and scrolling. But if I were to turn this off, we go back to desktop mode and you see it has a totally different layout. But the thing about responsive design is we should be able to design our HTML once, and then with CSS, we are able to provide different designs or different look and feel per device. Okay, so let's go ahead and do a demonstration and create a responsive site of our own. I'm going to pick something very simple so you get a sense of what's going on. So let's go ahead and create an HTML page. And the very minimum it is necessary for an HTML page is pretty much your HTML tags, the header, the body, and maybe just any element inside of it. We'll have a header tag that says test, assuming I can spell test correctly. All right. So the first thing you want to do, even the simplest thing, is to open it up in a browser and make sure you can see what you're writing. So we'll save our work. We'll go into Chrome. Okay, so here I've opened up my test page, and it's just the header tag. It says test. Consider that your hello world. Now we're going to apply some CSS to make it responsive. So we go into the CSS file, and the first thing we're going to do is just change our background. We'll just apply it to a body tag. So you notice it didn't apply, and the reason why is we couldn't find the CSS, and the reason why is we need to link to that CSS. Save the work, go into your browser, hit refresh, and if you can see that a change has been made, then you know you've linked it up correctly. Make sure to test this before you spend too much time working on the CSS. In fact, every time you make one little change, always open it in a browser, make sure that change applies, and then go back to coding. So here we've done the basic hello world. We can view the HTML, we can view the CSS. Now let's make it so that when I shrink the browser, let's have the background change colors. It would respond to me changing the size of the browser. So the way we do that is we want to add a media query that says, hey, if the browser is the width of an iPad, apply this style. If you don't remember how to do this, and most people won't unless you're doing this every day, is just always Google it, right? So I like to use W3 Schools. You can see responsive web design using media queries. It'll tell you what a media query is. And here's a great example of a media query. And there's no shame in copying. In fact, I'm just going to steal what they've got. Now, we can type this out or analyze it ourselves, but it's just a directive saying we're going to override based on media type. We're going to say only, meaning only apply the style if all of the following criteria are true. The first criteria is only apply this to screens as opposed to print. Believe it or not, when you print out an HTML page, you can override the style for how it looks on the paper. And then also we want to say, okay, only apply this style for when the screen is below 600 pixels. Let's make it 900 pixels. I want it to be green. Okay, save your work. Go back to the browser. Hit refresh. Take the side of your browser and just kind of shrink it up. And when you get below 900 pixels, watch it change. So you can have as many media queries as you like. So let's get silly with it. Let's put 800, 700, 600. So we'll go green, blue, purple, yellow. Let's hit save. Let's watch what happens. Hit refresh. Let's scroll all the way out and then slide your browser in. Watch it change from green, blue, purple, yellow. Now, hopefully the wheels are starting to turn and you're starting to think, wow, we can get really creative with this. So let's try modifying that header tag. Let's inject some text in front of that word test. I know there's a pseudo tag, something like before. I don't think I remember it, so I'm going to Google it. And there's no shame in that. So we'll say CSS before. Here's taking me the MDM site. There we go. It's a pseudo element. So we can inject some content before. I'm just going to steal this code. Yes, that's what we do in the business. We steal code. Let's change that anchor tag to a header tag. Ah, heck, let's put a heart sign in there and see what it does. Let's go back to our web page. And let's see what happens if I shrink this down. Oh, got some funky text going on here. So the browser doesn't know what a heart sign is. So let's turn that into something meaningful. Well, since we set the background color to green, let's set this to green. And what this is going to do is it's going to insert the word green in front of whatever's inside of that H1 tag. Now I'm really doing this to illustrate that you can change pretty much anything. This isn't really meant to be a lesson about those pseudo elements, but you can use them. All right, let's go back to refresh our page and we'll kind of bring that in. So we got red, green test, blue test, purple test, yellow test. Now, most of the time, we aren't really building a web page with the intention for people to drag the width of the browser. The real practical implication is, when you go to your developer tool and you hit F12. And again, where it really matters is when you toggle the device and you're testing this as if it's in an iPhone or an iPad. Now, check this out. See how it stays red? You might be going, why isn't that iPhone is only 375 pixels wide? Why didn't it change? Well, the reason why is when you're using an iPhone, it thinks it's being helpful. It's trying to scale the content instead of squishing the width. So if there's 1,000 pixels to be shown, it's going to try to fit 1,000 pixels of content, and so your words are actually just getting smaller. So here on an iPad, it's kind of like medium size, and then you go back to turning it off. So responsive requires us to also configure the viewport to adjust. Let's add that. So we need to do that, we need to add a meta tag to our header. So again, this is one of those things you're probably not going to remember, but the meta tag applies to the viewport. Viewport is basically that browser window, the part that renders the HTML, and you're going to say to what it applies, and here it's the device width. So you hit save, go back to your developer tool inside your browser, and we'll turn that on. Now you've got an iPad. We're gonna, oh, we forgot to hit refresh. There we go. So now it's actually acting as if it's 768 pixels. Let's go to our iPhone, and we expect it to be yellow. Yep, so it's acting as if it's 375 pixels wide, which if you go to your media query, you'll see that that's below the 600, so whatever's inside of here will override whatever is up here. All right, one more note. Sometimes you'll hear people talk about mobile first design. That's much easier, in my opinion. Here we didn't do mobile first. We kind of did desktop first, and we applied styles as they went down. All mobile first design is if you do it in reverse. You act as if the default style is what you want it to be for the smallest viewport, and then you start adding overrides. Instead of using max width, you use min width, and you would override going further out, out, out. And the reason we like to do mobile first design is the net effect is you have fewer CSS attributes to override because it takes less CSS to do mobile design, so you have fewer overrides as you go further out. If you do a full-blown desktop design, you're going to have a lot of CSS attributes for all your elements, and therefore you have a lot of CSS attributes to override as you minimize the design shrinking down. All right, I hope that's helpful.